Hey folks, today we're going to do a quick rundown through a pretty solid raid build here for balance. Now balance is in a bit of a tough spot coming into 9.1. We've seen some pretty substantial nerfs. I hate to say it, I'm still sticking with Night Fae, but it looks like Venthyr is the preferred build here. So if you like swapping between specs, it might just have gotten a little bit harder for Druids. Um, Balance is still super versatile, and we're going to touch on the recommended raid build here right off the bat. So tier 1, go with Nature's Balance for a single target. Alternatively, if you're going with a stacked AoE, really go with Warrior of Elune or Force of Nature. That They're usable here, but not for your raid. Tier 2, Wild Charge gives great flexibility. It's one of the best utilities that we have from a mobility standpoint. Um, Really easy way to go with very limited requirements to interrupt your rotation. Tier 3 comes down to what your preference is, Guardian Affinity or Restoration. My preference is usually Resto to either keep myself topped up or help my healers out in a pinch. Tier 4, Heart of the Wild is my preferred go-to, just with the buff it gives to my Resto Affinity. However, Mighty Bash, Mass Entanglement, there might be a situation where that's required. Tier 5, it starts to get a little bit more of a toss up. You can go with Star-Lord or Incarnation for single target. Soul of the Forest is a great talent, but you're going to use it on Mythic Plus. Tier 6, you're going to go Stellar Flare for a single target or Stellar Drift. Stellar Drift actually just got a pretty solid rework between 9.05 and 9.1. Now it has a cooldown of 12 seconds. So you'll have 4 seconds of no Starfall, but it's still really good. Keep that in mind. Finally, tier 7, you're going to go with Fury of Elune if you're going for Venthyr and that kind of max approach. Alternatively, if you're sticking with Night Fae from the beginning of the expansion, go with New Moon. You're going to see across the majority of the Sanctum of Domination, like the popular legendaries, if you're Night Fae, are going to be Conflux of Elements and Fury of Skies or Naya's Tools Burrs. If you're going Venthyr, it'll be like Endless Thirst, Precise Alignment, or Dauntless Duelist. So that's where we're going, and obviously that's kind of the two Covenant race that we have right now with Night Fae and then Venthyr really looking like it's starting to race out. As far as stat priority goes, folks, you want to just get as eye level as possible. If you really want to dig into it, for Night Fae, you really kind of want to prioritize Massed Haste. For Venthyr, you want to prioritize Haste Massed. So it's effectively the same thing. It's just which secondary stat do you prioritize more. So again, Night Fae, Mastery, Venthyr, Haste. That's all. Both of them are head and shoulders above crit and verse, though, so definitely prioritize accordingly. If you're wondering what race, Troll is still fantastic just because of the berserking racial. High Mountain Tauren is pretty good just because of the added mobility from Bull Rush and the 1% verse passive. So really solid if you're a Night Fae player. Alternatively, on the Alliance side, Night Elf is still a ton of fun, and that's what I'm playing my balance on this year. Then kind of just like jumping over, looking at the rotation, there's not a lot of substantial change that you'll see here. You really just want to keep your dots on your priority targets at all times. Refresh the dots unless you're approaching a celestial alignment about to run out. Stack Starlord as quickly as possible. Use Warrior of Elune off cooldown. Use Starfire to proc solar eclipses, and use Wrath to proc lunar eclipses. Really straightforward. The only difference is if you're Night Fae, you're just going to be playing with Primordial Arcanic Pulsar. Try having 90 to 100 Astral Power before using Star Surge, and that gets you into Incarnation Chosen of Elune. So that's really specific if you're planning on jumping into more of an AoE or a cleave type build. So don't sweat that. Really, just make sure you're always in Eclipse and use the spell that benefits from the eclipse. So try not to throw away any astral power at the end of an eclipse. Try to redot when you're in between eclipses. It really allows you to save some time to do some more damage when you're in your standard rotation instead of spending globals in the middle of Eclipse. That's really what you want to try to avoid if you're new to the spec entirely. I think we talked about Legendaries. The best overall has absolutely been for Night Fae balance of all things, synergized really well with Convoke of the Spirits. Um, Still the best for Kyrian, but it's a bit worse from a multi-target perspective. What's interesting and what we started to see here is the actual kind of nerfs that came out and how they impacted the different legendaries that are out there.